Yeah, but it's going to be messy. So, June 5th, 1305, Perugia. Bertrand, real name, Bertrand the Goat, becomes Pope, chosen to succeed Benedict XVI. 10-5, the cards elected him. Because, as I mentioned before the break, he was not a cardinal, nor was he an Italian. And this is supposedly done in order to end a conclave which lasted 11 long months. Villani, an Italian banker, an official, diplomat, chronicler of history, wrote that Bertrand, or this new Pope, Clement V, the one who outlawed the Knights Templar, later in his papacy, owed his election to a very secret agreement with Philip IV, Villani wrote, made at Saint-Jean d'Angely in Saint-Onge. This may be dismissed as gossip, but let me get that. Now, while at Saint-Jean d'Angely in Saint-Onge, it's probable that the future Pope, Clement V, had to accept certain conditions laid down by the cardinals controlling the powerful, elite, rich families descending from the blood of Cain, because these are the ones that have been running the cardinals and the papacy. At Bordeaux, Bertrand, or Clement V, as he becomes formally known, was notified of this election and urged to go immediately to Rome, but instead he caused his coronation to take place at Lyon in France instead on November 14th, 1305. Tells you about something of the money and the power behind the papacy at this time. From the very beginning, Clement V was subservient to French interests. Among his first acts, as he ran the Roman Catholic Church from France, was the creation of 9 French cardinals, and right after becoming Pope, early in 1306, he modified or explained away those features of Pope Boniface VIII's bulls or decrees laid out in his Clerics Laicos Unam Sanctam, which were particularly offensive to the French king, Philip IV. What did the King of France find so offensive? Well, the Pope before Clement V, Pope Boniface VIII, in an attempt to prevent the kings of France and of England, who, by the way, are joined as one, he tried to prevent them from taking Vatican money gathered from the parishioners in the Roman Catholic churches in those countries. He said it's illegal to touch that money. It goes to Rome. And he declared any king guilty who did not express prior permission of the Pope himself before he took the money. So most of the year of 1306 he spent at Bordeaux because of bad health. Then he moved to Poitiers. And in March of 1309, the entire papal court settled in Avignon, at which time was an imperial fief controlled by the King of Sicily. Avignon itself was self-governing under the overlordship of the Angevin court of Provence, who was also the King of Sicily and also of Naples. The popes were allowed by this royal family to settle in Avignon in early 14th century. The popes bought Avignon from the Angevin dynasty, a branch of the Merovingian royal family, for 80,000 florins in 1348. Yes, the popes bought Avignon from the Angevin dynasty. Until the French Revolution, Avignon was a papal possession, first under the schismatic popes of the Great Schism and then under the popes of Rome. It was later the seat of more than one anti-pope, An anti-pope is, of course, a person who opposes a legitimately elected or sitting pope and makes a significantly accepted competing claim to become the pope himself. Avignon belonged to the Vatican papacy until 1791. That's when the French Revolution changed everything and was reclaimed by the French government. Here's something you may have never heard. One of the most devastating pandemics in human history was the Black Death, or the Black Plague as it was known. It appeared in Avignon in 1348, the exact same year it was sold to the Vatican. That very same year, the Black Plague kills almost 2/3 of that city's population, and a total in all of Europe at about 100 million. That began what's known as the 70 years of the Babylonian captivity of the Catholic Church. And on Friday the 13th of October 1307 came the arrest of all of the Knights Templar in France, who were lending at this point vast amount of money to the Vatican, to the point where they all but owned them. From the very day of Clement V's coronation, King Philip IV had charged that the Knights Templars were heretical. Heretics. And the official story goes like this: the immortality and abuses and the ugly scruples of the Roman Catholic Church, the weak Pope, were finally overcome by an apprehension that the King, Philip IV, wouldn't wait for the Catholic Church to punish the Knights Templars, but move without the backing of the Church against them, as well as by the royal threats of pressing the accusation of heresy against the now deceased Boniface VIII, who banned France and England from touching any of the money in the Roman Catholic churches. So, going along with the king's wishes, Pope Clement summoned the Council of Vienne, but they wouldn't convict the Knights Templars of heresy. So the Pope officially abolished the order himself and had the leader of the Knights Templar, Jacques de Molay, burned at the stake on an island in the River Seine in Paris on March of 1314. The sudden end of both the centuries-old Order of the Templars and the dramatic execution of its last leader turned Jacques de Molay into a legendary figure. The Fraternal Order of Freemasonry has also drawn upon the Templar mystique for its own rituals and lore, and today there are many organizations which draw their inspiration from the memory of Jacques de Molay. Its French estates were granted to the Hospitallers, but actually Philip IV held them until his death and then turned it over to the Hospitallers. When the three sons of Philip IV all failed to produce surviving male heirs to the French throne, Pope Clement IV, who was an optimist, refused to use his full influence in favor of the candidacy of Charles of Valois, brother of Philip IV of the House of Capet, who were descendants, by the way, of the Carolingians, a branch of the Merovingian dynasty. Lest France became too powerful, he sided with Henry of Luxembourg, whom his representatives crowned emperor in the Lateran in 1312. Back with more on that story in a moment. King, or should I say, Pope Clement V and King Philip IV, the killers of Jacques de Molay, and the enders of the reign of the Knights Templar. More on the way on the other side.